When you start thinking it didn't matter anymore.
Oh, you think it's all some kind of game, don't you?
Why don't you just do what you've always done? Just elect Cade and get paid.
Richard Gere, Julie Christie, Gene Hackman, Kate Capshaw, Denzel Washington, E.G. Marshall, and Beatrice Straight in a Sidney Lumet film, Power. Nothing else comes close.
Prove me wrong.
Well, don't say yes and don't say no. Don't say maybe. Say you'll call back, but don't. That's how you stay president.
Hey, everyone. I'm Joe Biden.
I will go down in history as the president who started World War III. The people know the truth.
Hello, this is Brian Johnson of AC/DC, and you're listening to Nostalgic Radio and Cars.
Okay, listeners, the people know the truth. Hey, you're tuned into Nostalgic Radio and Cars. I'm your show host, Robert. Run your computers and Google TANTalk1340.com, and you can see us live. Yes, live, really live in the studios here in downtown Clearwater. No fake news. This is real, the real deal. Good evening, Bobby. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yes, you're really sitting across from me. I can vouch for that.
You get that brand new switchboard. Well, what is it?
Switchboard? Really? How you making it sound like?
Hey,
we're getting a brand new switchboard.
Anyway,
No,
don't forget to check out nostalgicradioandcars.com where you can hear all our past 600 and I lost count shows. But anyway, we're having a great time here.
I want to say.
Huh?
633.
633? Yeah, that's still pretty good. Okay, well, we're on a roll. We'll be here for a while. We're not going anywhere soon. We got some great guests lined up for you here in the coming months. We got a great guest for you this evening. We have a local guy. We haven't needed local guys in a while. And we're just coming off SEMA. SEMA was last week. So, we're into the cool car, hot rod, resto mod, classic car, all that other good stuff, car stuff. But let me just share with you what I did with us, did over the weekend. And, by the way, make sure it's too late now, but maybe if you haul butt out to California, you can vote. Anyway, everybody needs to vote. Vote. Vote the bums out. That was the cliche years ago.
But don't watch the TV yet. Listen to us.
Yeah, don't watch the TV because it's all propaganda.
Just listen to us, and then
it was really cool because a couple of years back in 2016 when we were at SEMA, which is always the first weekend in November, we were all kind of up and having a good time there at SEMA. And when even up to 2:00 in the morning, they weren't sure. They were totally stunned, but Trump won. Yes. Anyway, so we had a great outcome, and hopefully we'll have a good outcome tonight. So anyway, on that note,
or if you are still doing that trip to California, you could find us that Powerball winner out there and bring him over here.
Yeah.
We could use a sponsor here. Yeah.
Yeah. $900 million. He might walk away with $1 billion.
990.
Oh, they just can't just round it off to $1 billion. That's terrible. The guy, it's a $2 billion power.
Unless you take it in the installments, then it adds up a little closer.
Yeah, but still, the Powerball was $2 billion, so you should get the full amount. But in the government's infamous way, they got their mighty hand in there. And but anyway, so let me just share with you what I did over the weekend because there's a lot of. Right now we're in the middle of all the car stuff. I missed Sumter or Dumpster County swap meet that was this weekend, and but I went to Lake Wearsdale over in which is on the other side of the Villages. And I went to see a friend of mine over there, and he's in one of these hangar neighborhoods, airplane neighborhood. But they had a fly-in over there, so they had a small car show and a fly-in, and it was pretty cool. They had 100 planes show up and helicopters, and that was really kind of cool. So you had the cars and the planes, which is kind of an interesting thing. But and the runway, one of the runways is 3,600 feet long, and the other one I think is 2,500. And they're terrainy, they're up and down a little bit, so these guys are just bouncing around in their little airplanes. They had biplanes, they had old Stearmans, they had Cessnas, they had Pipers, they had twin engines, single engines, underneath engines, over the top engines, hanging off the back engines, and even engines on the front, I guess. But anyway, they had all kinds of motors there and airplanes. And it's funny because a lot of these guys were seasoned pilots and older guys. And the thing about like these hangar neighborhoods, my friend, for example, I did not know. I always thought he had 3 or 4 cars. He's got 3 airplanes. They're not big planes. They're kind of what you would call like a sport plane. and they fly. They've got anywhere between 85 and 185 or 200 horsepower, and they fly 110 to 200 miles an hour, depending on where you're at. And they fly usually around an altitude somewhere between 7, 8, 9, 10,000 feet. And, and they're not, these guys are VFR or Alan's going to call and correct me. There's a term when you're visual rated, VR something or other. And then there's instrument ratings, but a lot of these guys aren't even instrument rated, and they're just visual rated. And to a the good argument is that if it's and that day it rained, it was a little overcast, and their attitude, some of them, is if I can't see where I'm flying, I don't need instruments to tell me I'm going to crash. So I can see where I'm going, and I can see other airplanes, and then we're in communication with a tower, which they have to be. So, but it was pretty cool. But these little planes, and this friend of mine, he flies this thing to Wisconsin. He says I fly from here to Wisconsin, and it takes me 2 days by car. I can fly it, and it's 2,400 miles or whatever he said it was. He says I fly it, and the plane flies around 200 miles an hour, which is 180 knots, something like that. And he says I fly there, 6.5 hours. I stop, twice on the way up there, and grab a bite to eat or whatever. But that's actually pretty cool. I personally, I got this thing, like if I was in the boats and cars and motorcycles. So if I fell off my motorcycle, I could get up and walk away. If my car quit, I could probably walk. And if the boat quit, chances are I could swim, because I usually never went outside of the shoreline, or my shoreline, the visual, and but flying, I really just never sprouted wings, so I can't fly, if that thing quits, even though they say, well, you just kind of land it. Well, ask the guys that weren't so lucky, nosedive and augured their planes on the ground. But anyway, so that was a cool show. Then I drove up to Micanopy, and that brings to mind a song by John Anderson called Seminole Wind. And it references Micanopy, and also references Lake Okeechobee and Chief Osceola. It's kind of a cool song. Anyway, and so I went up to Micanopy to go check out a 58 Etzel wagon. Now, I'm snooping around the internet, always looking for stuff to buy and sell. And I had an Etzel way back in the day. I had a couple of them. I have a thing for Etzels. I like Etzels. And our friends over at Billaproof years ago, somebody by the name of Jeff Allison did a T-shirt, and he did an Etzel gasser, 2-door. And I had a 2-door 57 Ford Ranch wagon and a 4-door Etzel, and I was taking the front clip off the Etzel, putting it on the Ranch wagon, because they're pretty much the same car. And except the doors on an Etzel wagon are different. They have a little different trim, and then in the back and stuff like that. And then magically those cars disappeared, long story short. But at any rate, so I had an interest in this particular Etzel because it was a 2-door, and it's either pink or it was coral, one of the two colors, which is kind of a really cool 50s color, kind of a deco-ish kind of color, which was pretty neat. And so I went up to look at it, and the guy had a bunch of spare parts, but the guy turned out to be real nice. His name's Jimmy. And he had a 51 Chevy sitting laying around there. And then he had a 46, 47 Ford 2-doors laying around there, a couple of Volkswagens, a couple of Corvairs, 3 Metropolitans, 2 coupes, 1 convertible, kind of neat. And then some other mid-30s sedans, bustleback sedans, the long sedans, 2-doors with the funky trunk on the back. And a whole... just wall art all over the place, old stuff, fenders, hoods, doors, grills, just all kinds of neat stuff, mag wheels, engine parts. And it's just kind of neat, and it's those scavenge hunts that I go on every once in a while. They're a lot of fun. I mean, and you meet interesting people. This guy was an older guy, 74 years old. He was getting up there a little bit, and, his age kind of caught up with him a little bit. So he's kind of scaling back. And like a lot of us, he said, I'm going to do this someday. That was 40 years ago, and never got around to it. And I need to get on the stick too. So we just recently here, Bobby and I were working on the Ford Excursion, and we got that thing back to life now. I drove it all over the place today, and
see it in the security cameras out.
Yep. Yeah, we got that thing dialed up. Still a few things to do, but hey, that old 2040. We should play that little somewhere. We have that clip. Remember where we start that thing?
Yeah, because this hot rod thing's too long.
Oh, is it?
Way too long.
Is it really? No, it should be like a couple minutes. Is it something like that? Is that what how long?
Try
it is?
5.
That long?
Mhm.
Oh, there should be a couple of shorter versions. All right. Anyway, all right. So whatever. Well, I think on that note, Bobby, you want to go take a commercial break right now? Let's see what. So this past weekend also was the HSR event, 24-hour Le Mans mini thingy that they had there at Daytona. That was kind of cool. They got Sebring coming up in a couple months. We got the Palm Beach Concourse coming up. We've got what else we got? I mean, FLAcarshows.com's got a lot of stuff, but it doesn't have everything on it. There's a Pantera gathering this weekend in Sarasota. There's a Vintage Truck Club gathering in Brooksville this weekend. If you want to find out information,
let's rephrase that.
What?
It can have everything.
It
If this
can have-
great car community
Oh, it does.
would
Yes.
sit there and log on and submit your event.
That's exactly right. That's all you have to do. So everybody can find out about what's going on. And there's just a lot of stuff going on.
Because
I
if
mean,
you don't put it there, how are we going to know that?
this is true. This is true. Multi Georgia's coming up. Swap meet that's coming up in a couple of weeks. Carlisle's got their swap meet coming up here in a week or two. The Mopar, they had Don Garlis was this past weekend. There's another Mopar show coming up this weekend, also up there in the Bellevue area. Just lots and lots of fun stuff. Especially if you're kind of in the, like me, a scavenger. Looking for kind of really cool parts. And not that I need any more parts. I got plenty of stuff, but it's kind of neat. I mean, there are a few tools and there's a few cars out there I'd like to have, but I'm disciplined. I'm not doing anything until I finish what I got. Right, Bobby? So what do
Okay.
Yeah. He goes, yeah, okay, Dad, sure. Yeah. But anyway, all right, let's go fire up a commercial or two, and then we'll fire up.
Let's hear Robin Trower first.
You want to do Robin Trower?
Then we'll play our commercials.
Okay, let's do a little Robin Trower now. I always liked this song. This song came out in the early 70s. And here's a really super guitarist, underrated. Not really, but he's up there. Anyway, so, hey, you tuned into Nostalgic Radio Cars. This is Robin Trower. It's Day of the Eagle, right, Bobby? Okay, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with some more rock and roll and some good car stories.
It's all right, it's up ahead, but I couldn't see her eyes up on my bed. I'm not alone, and I am. These people seem to think I'm Superman, but I want for the love. I'm living in the day, I'm the eagle of love. It's like a wind that brings me down. If I don't move, I'm on the ground. It's in my mind, it's in my soul. It's telling me the things I can't be told. It says, what for the love? Living in the day of the eagle lover. No. Another day, another night. I want to love, they want to fight. And every time I've got to be alone. I've got to think it over on my own. But what for love?
Looking for car shows? Then look no further than FLAcarshows.com. On your computer or on your mobile device, FLAcarshows.com is a comprehensive list of automotive events, plus videos and news articles. Whether you're looking for car shows, cruise-ins, meetups, automotive festivals, cars and coffees, or anything else relating to an internal combustion engine, then this is a site for you. Check it out online or on your phone at FLAcarshows.com.
You may be owed some money. After 911 and 411, call 541. That's 727-541-1741. Call Gulfstream Motorsports for a diminished value report. Due to my 28 years experience in the auto salvage business, I'm very good with wrecks. So if your car's been involved in a wreck, call me for a diminished value report. Call 727-541-1741. You may be owed some money for the lost value of your repaired vehicle. And visit us at GulfstreamMotorsports.com.
Okay, we're back. Oh, that's just a beautiful sound.
There's an organic sound effect.
Yeah, a little drag race music there, if you will. Alan did call me back, and it's called Visual VFR, Visual Flight Rules. So I stand corrected because my memory's short. And thank you, Alan. One of our regular listeners. Big shout out to...
Nice keeping you in check.
Keep me in check. Yeah. Okay, Charlie, we'll give you a shout out too. Brian's listening. Junk Mike's listening. Don't worry, Mike. We got some music guys coming on here in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, that was fun doing Rocktober. We got a new theme that we're working on here. We're gonna have. I'm working on branching out into business and finance a bit. Reason being is because that affects all of us. So we might get lucky and we might have a couple Wall Street guys coming on the show. That'd be pretty cool. And then of course our car guys. We're our traditional, mainstay, because we're car guys at heart. That's what we is. Car guys. Anyway, on that note, Bobby, why don't you go ahead and fire up the stereo again? Let's go ahead and get our guests on the show because I don't want to keep them waiting. You're tuned into Nostalgic Radio Cars. And
you'll have...
What do we have queued up?
Find the record.
Deep Purple? Deep Purple. Well, and this goes out to... Well, since it is a political night, if we can find the song. Deep Purple, Lazy, I think is the title of the song. And it goes out to everybody that voted for the Democrats. Anyway, I know we're supposed to keep it non-political, but you know how that goes. We can't do that here because we are the voice of radio, the voice of reason, real reason.
No, don't say that.
Don't say that. You might have to break into the middle of that song. I'm not sure if that's the beginning of this one. Doesn't really sing. There we go. Now that's it. A little John Lord there playing the is it a B3? Hammond B3? Is that what that organ is? I think
that would be Hammond B3.
Yeah,
I know how heavy they are.
They are very. Oh, you had to move one of those.
Oh, yes, off a trailer back on this.
Oh well. Anyway, so there's a couple of guys. Greg Raleigh played him. Guy from Vanilla Fudge played him. B3 Hammond. That was the organ.
Listen to it.
Yeah. Well, hey, you're tuning into Nostalgic Radio Cars. Here's a little Deep Purple, and we're gonna start our show here and have our guests on here in a couple seconds. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Hey now and have mercy. This is Billy F. Gibbons from ZZ Top, and you're listening to Nostalgic Radio and Cars.
Okay, we're back. You're tuning to Nostalgic Radio and Cars, and that was a little Richie Blackmore there too, with undoubtedly one of the best guitars ever. And anyway, it's time to introduce our special guest for the evening. Now, there's we just came off SEMA, and this talented group of guys had a really, really cool 31 Ford out there. And the shop locally here is called Rooster's Rod Shop. Now, they're not really low key, but unless you're really into traditional, really cool old school hot rods, you probably don't know about them. But they built some amazing stuff. And tonight we have with us the shop manager and I guess also the VP of Rooster's Rod Shop here in Clearwater, Florida, John Wayne. Now, I don't know whether to draw or draw. Hey, John, how you doing this evening?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Now, how do you get a name like John Wayne? Good. When I say draw, I mean like draw 6-shooter or draw as in, with a pen, stroke of a pen. Okay, go ahead. Your dad, huh?
Well, either way, but yeah, it came from my dad. He was a big John Wayne fan, and it kind of blessed me with this name. So.
Well, no, that's cool. That's cool. And John, I mean, no, I don't think there's one person besides John Wayne. I mean, nobody personifies true American better than John Wayne does, really, if you think about it.
I hope so. That's why we try to build American cars.
All right. Well, tell us about, you just came off SEMA. And it's, so go ahead and share with us. Now, you guys have been to SEMA before, but you guys have actually had a car there now. So what was that experience like?
It was a lot. That place will take everything from you. That's for sure. But it was a good time. We, busted hump trying to make everything happen and, had our setbacks and all that stuff, as you always do when it comes to stuff like that. And, it was definitely good. The truck was well perceived and everything. And it was a good time.
Describe the vehicle to us for the listeners and kind of be descriptive, give a visual. Now, I know I just recently did an appraisal on the car, so I've seen the car.
That's a fact.
And I've got a picture in my head. So, but I want you to, for our listeners, just describe this car, because the car's, first of all, the color is tasty. Okay. So, but anyway, right away,
we tried to keep it classic.
Yeah, it was. So go ahead. Tell us about the car.
So it's it's a brand new build. Everything's brand new from tire to, bumper to bumper, basically. But it's a Brookville body, 31 Ford Roadster pickup truck. We use their body, doors, cab, all that stuff. Bed. The chassis is actually a chassis we bought from them. Then we severely modified it. All Pete and Jake's chrome front end. We did a custom tie rod drag link. It's got a Mercury 312 in it with a couple carburetors.
6 to be exact, right?
Yeah, 6 carburetors. Yeah, for sure. Kenmont brakes, Winner's quick change rear end, Trackmaster gearbox in it, 46 Mercury dashboard. That's why we, deemed it a Mercury. Tremec 5-speed, just a bunch of custom features and touches and a little bit of everything.
Take us through the process, what it takes to build. So you're sitting around with a couple of guys and gals, and you come up with this concept. Well, first you say, I think we're going to challenge SEMA. All right. So then you got that part down, and that's lightweight feat. That's extremely, you're competing with the best of the best at SEMA. So now you're sitting around, you're conceptualizing. So take us from the time you conceptualize, and it's a 2-year process in this particular case.
Yes, this did take 2 years. The original idea came from a Wiesner drawing that he did a couple years ago. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. It was supposed to be a driver quality anyway, and it just went crazy. And then we just didn't have an exact plan. So we just kind of kept throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what stuck, and this truck's what we ended up with.
So this is the process that people don't realize is like you have an idea, but you never know what it's going to ultimately look like, because in the process you go, well, this is kind of cool, but why don't we try this? Well, that's not really what we want. Let's try. So go through all that, tell the story.
There has been a couple things we've tried on this truck, and you just got to keep doing different things till you figure out what looks right, what you like. The process it's time consuming. That's probably the biggest thing, is just, it takes time, and a lot of people can watch stuff on TV, but it's way beyond that. So you just got to sit around and see what looks right, and see what fits and what doesn't. And a lot of things don't, even though you might think you want that, it just doesn't look right in the end result.
Tell us about the frame. Now, the frame, because I saw the pictures of the build. Okay. In fact, I was there a year ago when this was kind of in its infancy stages. Okay. And
we're still putting it together.
Right. And I saw the mock-up. So the frame to me was really interesting. So it looks like you cut the back half of the frame off, and then you welded this little kind of a radius piece of steel on there with some holes drilled in it to give it just a little bit of a kind of a, I don't know, kind of like an Art Deco look to it a little bit. So, and that, I guess, dropped the frame and lowered the car, right? Was that kind of the concept there?
Basically, we try to make it look like an I-beam.
Okay.
To, semi match the front axle, which, Chrome Pete and Jake's front end. It's all drilled and stuff. So we did cut the back end off, put the quarter ellipticals out the back of the frame, and then did the step up in the back and then I-beam seam to lower it, yes, and bring the bed up higher, because stock Model A's, it was out of proportion, to the body wise versus having where the bed sat. So we brought the bed up, and more cosmetic than anything, but it all worked out and looks fairly good.
Oh, looks darn good. And the selection of a quick change rear end. Why did you go that way?
Yeah.
That's kind of a racing thing to it a little bit.
Yeah, it does, but it was for drivability.
Okay.
We can switch the quick change out. It's very, very simple to do. One gear set, you got a 366, you flip it over, and you're like a 456. So it's like a street strip type thing. So.
And the Pete and Jake's front end, okay, so it's a drop axle, spindles, and it's got the big aluminum brakes on it, front and back, but you've got discs are kind of hidden in the front, and then you've got drums on the rear, right?
Correct. They are a Kenmon style, which is, fairly unique. They only made 200 sets of this style brake, but Johnson Rod Shop decided to go ahead and upgrade them. So it's got 4 piston caliper Willwood calipers in the front and just standard drum brakes in the back, which on a 2,000-pound car, you don't need much more than that,
The tell us about the interior, the cockpit area, obviously the dash, and then the seats are special.
The seats got so much attention out at SEMA this year. It was crazy. But yeah, the dash was a 46 Mercury dash. That's what started us on this Mercury theme. And it's been cut every direction that you could ever imagine. The bezel's been turned around, upside down, backwards. Classic Industries hooked us up with a set of custom gauges that they don't even make for, in general production. Then, Trackmaster Gearbox has a stainless column. Limeworks helped us out with the badass Crestline steering wheel that came with the Mercury head in it. We backed it up with teak. The seats are the craziest thing. They're just a set of restaurant seats we ordered because we couldn't figure out anything better to do. That we just ended up body working, painting, and cutting a couple extra holes in them and stuff, and just shaping them, make them, going for the mid-century look. The floors are teak and holly, actual like veneer style plywood in them. And then Dar Fortney in the shop, he just went ahead and wrapped everything as far as the rest of the upholstery goes on the inside. We had some extra teak laying around and put the inserts in them and made it look the way it's supposed to.
Well, it's definitely stunning. There's no question about that. And then the windshield is basically chopped too, right? And does it have a little rake to it?
A fairly stock 2-inch chop windshield we got from Speedway.
Let's talk about that intake manifold and carburetors.
Oh, that's a lot right there.
But that's pretty impressive stuff, though.
Yeah, it's an old school Wien Dragmaster manifold, with 6 2-barrels on it. Obviously, that's why we call it 12-pack. We made all custom fuel lines and the progressive linkages and stuff that are all made out of stainless and brass. All stainless and brass fuel lines, front to back, actually, from the gas tank to the carburetors is all stainless and brass. So I'm just trying to do things a little different, think outside the box on this one.
The valve covers are very, very unique. Tell us about the valve covers.
They are. We actually had to get them out of Australia. There's a fella named, he goes by Y Bloke on like Facebook, Instagram. And he was producing these. So we decided to scoop a set up because we knew we were going to go for the Y block, Mercury Ford motor, just to keep it different other than a small block Chevy or a flathead or anything like that. So we're just trying to be a little different with this one. Now,
Mercury, the Roman god Mercury, which is the logo that's on the Mercury, he's the god of commerce, finance, and a few things like that, good stuff. And so I understand that 1931, that you've got some Mercury coins, dimes, that are kind of inlaid because the radio knob or the knobs on the dash, those look like you turned those things out of brass, and then they looked like, from the pictures, dime inserts. Am I correct?
Yes, they were. A friend of ours, Anthony, over at Tinworks, went ahead and made the custom knobs for us. And then, we bought the 31 Mercury dimes to put in them, like inlaid them in it. So we got 4 of those in the truck for the 2 door pulls, and then the headlight ignition switch have them in it also. And then we had them do the shifter knob also, which has a Mercury dealer pendant inside of it to kind of tie everything together.
That's really cool, because when you obviously when you come up with a concept, you kind of want to stay with a theme and carry the theme throughout the car. And you guys did a very good job. And as simplistic as the car looks, okay, we're not talking an extravagant hot rod build as far as like a muscle car, something like that. We're talking basically a 31 Ford, Model A basically. But people can't fathom the detail. Something else you told me you did to this thing. There's no rubber on this car anywhere. All the lines, like you said, are polished. You said you took all the bolts and ground off all the tops, because they have the markings on them, if the number grade 8, grade 5, grade 3, whatever. And you smooth them all off, and then they're all polished stainless. That's detail.
Yeah, every bolt on this thing is a polished stainless bolt. And when you're talking about like grinding the heads and all that stuff, each bolt took about 10 minutes apiece on each one of them, which doesn't sound like a lot until you have 1,000 bolts. So it's just time consuming, as you could ever imagine.
Well, yeah. And that's what's impressive about this, because a lot of it is as you go, hey, why don't we do this? Hey, why don't we do that? Hey, this would be cool if we did this. And is that pretty much how it works?
Yeah, that's how the snowball effect happens. Yeah.
Well, the outcome was amazing. So go ahead.
Oh man, we appreciate it. It's a lot of hard work, and we got about probably 5,000 man hours in this thing, plus parts. So, you could only imagine what the total bill is on it.
So how was the reception at SEMA for this car?
Very good. Very good. Yeah, a lot of people liked it. There's a lot of pictures taken of it. A lot of people didn't know what it was. We heard that it was a small block Chevrolet power plant. We heard this thing was a T-bucket. But we also got a lot of good questions about it, like the drag link or the tie rod in the front of it, which looks like a bumper, is actually a tie rod. So it moves with, each spindle, left to right, but looks like a bumper at the same time.
Interesting. Now, tell us about the process, if somebody does a really, really cool car, like for you guys, when you guys did this car, what was the process like to get into SEMA and get a booth? Did you have to go through any kind of screening, or how did that all work?
We did. The process was a process. Initially, we were supposed to be in with another company. They ended up backing out like 2 weeks before we were supposed to get there. So we had to scramble and try to figure out how to, as a smaller shop and manufacturer, get into SEMA. And it was a process, a lot of work, a lot of what do we do now type thing, So it was a process, man. And it paid off.
Well, that's good. That's good. Now, Friday night, they have the SEMA Ignited. And then on Friday afternoon, what they were doing, and usually I'm there, but this year I couldn't go. I had other stuff come up. But so this year, and then what they started doing a few years ago is like around noon on Friday, they started, because SEMA is business to business only. It's only people in the industry. So it's not open to the public. But what they started to do a number of years ago was on Fridays at 12:30 in the afternoon, they would actually let a select amount of people, the public in there. So I don't know. Did they do that this year?
They did. It was all day this year.
Oh, okay.
All Friday.
All Friday?
Yes. That was all open to the public, for a fee, like everything is.
Right, right.
So.
Well, that's good, because in a way, I think it's inspirational in a way. People can get in there and see stuff, and then they get, and you never know, because there's a lot of talented people out there, and some guy might go, you know what? I'm inspired now. I think I'm going to build a car. I'm going to team up with somebody, and I'm going to make something really cool happen.
Well, it's good for people like us, that actually build cars, because, okay, we're building this car to go take to a bunch of other car builders, but maybe somebody else out there wants to go and they can't because they're not exactly in the industry, but they still want something built. So, which is nice that they open it up to the public.
Exactly.
All right. If they need help or looking for certain parts or want to talk to certain people about things.
So then in the evening, when SEMA's closing, like around 3, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock on Friday, I think it might be a little early on Friday, you guys got to drive your car out and then drive the parade and then drive over to SEMA Ignited?
Yes, we could have, but we didn't.
You didn't?
Unfortunately, we had to work on the tow rig to try to come back, back across country. So we weren't able to make that.
Darn. All right. So
that's just the way it goes sometimes. So.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's why I didn't make it. So that's just the way it goes too. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about Rooster's Rod Shop. Let's talk about you for a second. What's your background? Tell everybody what your background is.
I started doing this when I turned 18 professionally. Started as far as building custom cars and hot rods and stuff like that. But before that, my dad was always into tractors and restoring, British motorcycles, stuff like that. So I just, it was bred into me, I guess. And then got into the cars professionally, and, it just became a passion, lifestyle, and obsession, I guess.
So you're you're into more or less the traditional style hot rods, correct?
Correct. Yes. A lot of pre-war stuff, some post-war stuff,
so
but early, 30s, 40s, that type thing.
All right. When we talk in terms of traditional hot rods, explain to our listeners what a traditional hot rod is versus, somebody's concept of what they read about in the magazine today. I mean, there's a lot of high tech stuff out there, but a traditional hot rod's pretty basic.
There is. Fairly basic, 15-inch wheels, early Hemis, Y blocks, FEs, flatheads, small block Chevrolets, no fuel injection, drum brakes for the most part, a lot of chrome, basically not a resto mod. You start with an early car and build it the way it would have been in like the late 50s, early 60s. The way you would see in like early hot rod magazines.
Okay, that makes sense. Which I think Hot Rod Magazine is celebrating. Is it their 75th year? Is it this year or next year? They're coming up on their 75th anniversary, I think. I was reading something.
I'm not 100% sure about that, but they were the predecessors to almost all this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Those are the guys that opened the door for all of us. Exactly.
That's a fact.
Well, it was interesting because we've had Alex Exidius on our show. We've had Pete Saporis on our show. We had Ed Iskandarian on twice, once when he was 90, once when he was 101. How about that?
Right,
And,
right. That's pretty impressive.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, when you get and he's still all there, which was pretty impressive. Ken Gross comes on the show every once in a while. We had Ken on a few times. He's a great rider, hot rodder, old schooler kind of guy, and so it's really, really neat. All right, so tell us about Rooster's Rod Shop. Tell us a little bit about that for our listeners, and pimp it up a little bit. You might get some business. You never know who's listening.
No, I appreciate the business. I don't know. Just try to be modest about everything.
Oh yeah, no, that's cool. Go ahead.
But yeah, we're an old school hot rod shop, and we like traditional stuff. Got definitely a bunch of very talented guys. That's for sure. And this is what we're passionate about. We've only been doing this for about 3 years now, and got a bunch of great shop parties and stuff 3 times a year.
Tell us about this. When's the next shop party? It's coming up in January, right? So tell us about those so people can participate. How's it work?
January 7th. They're open to everybody. Doesn't matter what kind of car you drive. You can drive an import if you want. You can drive not your daily, but unless you got a cool ass daily. But pretty much anything. We're open to everything. We want to try to get this car community back the way it was in like the late 80s, early 90s, where you could go out and have fun, enjoy your cars, take them out, talk to like-minded people. So everything's always kid friendly. We got a sponsor that brings a bounce house up for the kids and everything. Sometimes we got live music. And we just open the shop up to everybody and come enjoy, have a good time, and talk about your cars.
Well, good. And then, so you have one in January. When's the one after that? So like if people can't make that one, is it just like you split it out evenly throughout the year?
Yeah, we do three of them a year. We just tried them in the summertime, but it was just too hot.
Yeah.
So we just, October, usually the first week of October is our main one.
Okay.
And then we do one, around New Year's, and then one either March or April. Just depends what's going on. If we're at shows, or depends what's happening. Okay. So we don't really have set dates for that yet, but.
Were you the one that was running the Ford Gasser truck with the 460 in it? Was that yours?
Yes, sir. That was mine.
Well,
I had that for a while.
That was cool. I used to see that on Belcher. Was sitting out there in front of a shop, and then
Tony's Total Performance.
Yeah, and then
you sat out there for a while.
Didn't you have a little mishap with that thing? I saw it was wrinkled one day.
Yeah, that was when Trey Davis owned it. He was a good friend of mine, and he's like, man, I was talking about selling it one day. He's like, I got to have it. I can't let it go anywhere. And we were down at the Freedom Factory in the old school DeSoto Speedway. And we were in a burnout competition and had 2 problems. One was too much traction, and the other one was not enough power, and hit the wall in it.
Oh.
But, yeah, we recovered from that.
Okay. So it's all back together now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So now Tim Hahn is the owner, and give us a connection between Tim's name and Roosters.
Well, that's where it came from. We're talking, Tim and I partnered up in this, and we're like, oh, what are we going to call it? And I was like, he told me about, Hahn being a German name for roosters. And there's nobody else in town that had like an animal name or anything cool like that. So we were just like, all right, let's just call it Roosters. So that's where it came from.
It's catchy though. It's catchy. And it's Roosters,
yeah.
R-O-O-T-S-E-R.
Nope.
No, wait a minute. R-O-O.
No.
It's got a Z in it. I'll be okay.
Yep. There's a Z at the end. R-O-S-T-E-R-Z.
E-R-Z, yeah. Well, I wasn't that good at school. So anyway.
Me neither. I just say it so much that it comes naturally.
Yeah. But I will tell you, though, the few times that I've been in your shop, there's some pretty amazing projects going on. And even your showroom, when you walk in there, for an old school hot rod or a kid that grew up in the 60s, and I'm from Northern Cal, so, I saw all that cool stuff. And, Roy Bruzier was in our backyard there, and a couple other guys, well-known guys. And so you kind of, hot rods and we built models back in the day. So when I walk into your shop, it's a trip down memory lane. Tell us about some of the cars you got going on, because you got a couple builds for SEMA scheduled here over the next year or two, right?
Yes, we have another 27 Chevy that we're building right now for a customer. It's turning out pretty badass. Had a 348 and a tri-power in it. It was a Capital Coupe that we ended up cutting the roof off and making it a Roadster. That car actually showed up on a pallet, like the body parts were just stacked up. So we had to figure out how to put everything back together in proportion. I got like 12 hours stripping the wood out of the Chevy body. And we went back and reinforced it with steel box tube and stuff. So we got that going on. We got another one that is still under wraps called Bad Attitude, which is a 60 Dodge truck that we're doing. We got a 47 Ford in the shop that we chop the top on. We got that happening. We got so much stuff happening. It's ridiculous. The best thing anybody could do is just come by and take a look.
Well, now you have a couple of cool vehicles sitting out there because there was that. What does Tim have? Tim has a early 60s Thunderbird that's pretty tricked out looking.
Yeah, we got the 62 Thunderbird that Darfur needed the roof on and fixed some body work and stuff. And we lowered it, put some wheels and tires on it. And fairly stock, but it looks extremely modified. We drive that thing all over the place. It's been to Ocala a couple times, Daytona, Immokalee. We just try to get it out there so people can see you can have old school carbureted vehicles and drive them wherever you want.
Well, yeah, because that's what we had back in the day. So if it worked back then, why wouldn't it work today? Exactly.
Because a lot of people have carburetors and let them sit around. You got to use them for them to stay relative.
This is true.
No problem.
He's got a 78 or 79 Bronco. Tell us about that, because that's pretty cool, because that's something that's dear and near to my heart.
Right. Yeah, it's a 79 Bronco. It's got a 6-inch lift. It's got a 429 in it. We try to keep it old school looking, period correct to the mid 80s and stuff. So we got 15 by 15 welds on it, and 38 by 15.5 tires, and pretty nice truck.
Is there anything out there you guys are looking for? I mean, we got a listening audience out here. If there's a car or a motor or intake or a carburetor or tranny or rear end, if there's anything you're looking for, go ahead and let us know. Maybe somebody might have an idea of what you got. They have something laying around their shop. You never know.
We're not looking for anything in particular, but anybody's always welcome to call, email us with what you got for sale. We are always interested in buy, sell, and trade. Intake manifolds especially. I don't know. For some reason, we're just drawn to them. For weird stuff, we don't need like a stock small block Chevrolet intake manifold or anything like that. Anything with multiple carburation.
Okay.
Flathead stuff, heads, whatever. So
how about,
we're open to a little of everything.
Okay. How about gassers? Do you get a call for people wanting gassers built?
Oh yeah, once in a while, like weird stuff, like a 58 Edsel wagon.
Yeah.
Stuff, so.
Yeah. Why coincidence? Speaking, you mentioned Immokalee. Now, Immokalee, apparently, I think there's a show coming up here pretty soon. It's kind of like an old school hot rodder hillbilly type show. What do you know about that?
Yeah, it's a rockabilly thing.
Okay.
That's when we went down to check that out the last, I think it was a year or two ago. I can't remember. But yeah, we cruised the Thunderbird down there, and it was a good time.
Okay.
Definitely worth going and checking out if, somebody's got the time to go do such a thing.
All right. Any particular, we got a minute left here or 30 seconds left. Is there anything in particular you want to share with our listening audience about Roosters? Why don't you go ahead and give out the social media information, and if people want to find out more about you, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, just your regular social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It's just Roosters Rod Shop, basically ROOSTERZ Rod Shop on all kinds of platforms. So other than that, stop by the shop. We got our website, which is just roostersrodshop.com. You can hit up or Google. We're good on Google too. So
okay, that's good.
Any of that stuff.
How about motorcycles? You guys mess around with bikes at all? Old school bikes?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
We got a couple that we got building. So
okay.
We don't mess with them, a whole lot, but we can if somebody wants us to,
Oh, I know another one. How about classic 60s, 70s vans?
Oh, man.
You got a couple of those laying around the shop too, don't you?
Not so much anymore. We had a Survivor 74 E100 that we had for about a year and stuff, and it was definitely a good time. There is a very cool street van show called the Freeze for All coming up in January that we're going to be at.
Okay.
We'll share the flyer and stuff for it on our social media stuff if anybody's interested in that.
Okay. Well, John, we're up against the clock, so I want to thank you very much for hanging out with us here at Nostalgic Radio and Cars. Definitely going to come down and check out your shop and tell everybody about your show coming up on January 7th. In the meantime, thank you very much for hanging out with us here. Take care.
Cool. No problem. Thanks for having us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bye-bye. Hey, I want to thank my listeners for tuning in here. Don't forget, every Tuesday night between 7 and 8 p.m. on the Tan Talk Radio Network. I want to thank my special guest, John Wayne. From the Roosters Rod Shop in Clearwater. Go check them out, roostersrodshop.com. So, hey, car show's coming up. Hope you guys voted. In the meantime, everybody stay safe, drive carefully, and love your family.
Week to week, day to day, hour to hour, day straight, deep and wide. Bring on through to the other side. Bring on through to the other side. Bring on through, bring on through, bring on through, bring on through.
WTAN Clearwater
FM 106.1,
WDCF Dade City
FM 102.3,
WZHR Zephyrhills
FM 104.3.
Listen.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Dell Small Business.
I'm Monica Ricks in New York. Pocketbook issues are pushing millions of voters to the polls nationwide this election day, but control of Congress is also up for grabs. CBS's Natalie Brand reports.